أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحابته ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم لا علم إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الكرام. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. بسم الله. وشروطهم في ذلك ثلاثة لا بد من معرفتها مخافة الغرض. There are conditions concerning what was previously mentioned, and this was in relation to adab and behavior. There are conditions in that are three. لا بد من معرفتها مخافة الغلط, and it's absolutely necessary to have some knowledge of them in order to avoid any errors. أولها أن لا يكون الفعل والقول مخلا بالأصل الذي هو طلب الجمع كالمعاصي الصريحة والقبائح المتفق عليها والبدعة الصريحة أو الإضافية مع ما يحقق الابتداع فيها، فإنها ظلم كلها وظلمة لا تجلب النور. فإنها ظلم كلها وظلمة لا تجلب النور بل تترف عينه. ومن أراد النور منها فقد أراد ما لا يصح وجودا. So he said the first is that any action or any words not in any way compromise the principle, which is the attempt to join the Sharia and the Haqiqah, such as wrong actions that are clearly wrong, any things that are inappropriate and it's agreed upon that they are considered inappropriate, any innovation that is absolutely explicitly an innovation, and also an innovation that is an additional innovation if the ulama have determined it to have elements of bid'ah in it. Because all of this is darkness, and darkness does not bring light. Rather, in fact, it eliminates the possibility of light coming in. And so whoever desires light from this, then he has done something that is not sound. It has no basis. So if you're seeking light from things that are essentially darkness, then it won't happen. That's the first one. The second one, تصحيح القصد في التوجه والوجه والبساط والمناط, is to rectify one's aims and ends, what one's attending, the goal, in terms of moving towards that goal, the means by which you move towards that goal, the ground upon which you move towards that goal, and also those things that are related to it. فلا يخل بالأدب بأدب الوقت ولا يتوجه قبل التحقيق بالإفادة واقتداء الحال لها. So one should not compromise whatever the adab of that specific time necessitates, nor should one attempt to move towards certain things before one has had realization, before one has determined absolutely what the benefit of that thing is, and also what its state necessitates. So before you do anything, you understand what the benefit of it is, and also what the state necessitates. الثالث الاقتصار على مقدار الضرورة من ذلك فيما قصد له، لأن ما أبيح للضرورة قيد بقدرها في الجملة، والاسترسال من المباحات مخل بأصل القصد وممكن في النفس استحلاءها حتى تدع النفس إلى طلبها. So then he says also one should restrict oneself to the absolute necessity only concerning this, in terms of what he is seeking to realize from it. Because when necessities are concerned, it's only permissible to do the qadr of that necessity, and to in any way be lenient about these things, and also to allow the nafs to slip into those prohibited, permissible things, is actually a compromise of the principle of what one is intending in this path, and it also is something that empowers the ego and causes it to actually enjoy such things, and therefore the ego then will demand more and more of it for you to seek it. So what he's saying here is that if you do have some necessity to do something, because here he was talking about obviously making things easier, if you do have some necessity to do that, he's saying then it should only be in accordance with whatever your necessity is. You shouldn't go past that, because what you're intending from all of this is still the same. And he said that darurat by their nature are limited to only the degree that you need it. And this is a qaida usuliyah. It's a principle in usul. For instance, if in any situation it was permissible for you to do something with usury, it's only permissible for you to do exactly what you need to do and nothing beyond that. So if you had to take a loan that had interest in it for some reason where you did have a valid sharia situation, it wouldn't be permissible to take also a bigger loan for some other project that you had that just happened to be another project. Or for instance in eating, if you need to eat a carrion, dead carrion, it's only permissible for you to take what you need. You can't go beyond that. Unless you were in a desert or some far off place and you could actually take some with you to continue eating on the journey. But once you found halal food, that becomes haram. So the necessity is only permissible as long as that which made it necessary is still happening. Once that stops, it's over. وهذا الوجه هو الذي قعد بكثير من المريدين عن الوصول ورد كثيرا من الواصلين إلى أسفل السافلين. And he said this aspect is something that has caused many of the seekers of this path. It's actually withheld them and stopped them in their path to arrival. And it has also sent back many of those people who had arrived to the lowest of the low. وإليه أشار الجنيد رضي الله عنه بقوله ليوسف ابن الحسين رحمه الله لا أذاقك الله طعم نفسك فإنك إن ذقته لا تفلح بعده أبدا. May Allah never allow you to taste the pleasure of your own nafs, because if you taste it, you'll never have success after that, ever. وهذا الأصل الذي ذكرناه مستشعر من جواب الجنيد رحمه الله الذي سأله عن السماع فقال كل ما يجمع العبد على مولاه فإنه مباح. And this is also derived from the answer that Imam Junayd rahimahullah gave to the one who asked him about spiritual singing and gathering for that, when he said anything that helps gather a servant unto his Lord is permissible. Now this is obviously not to be taken, it's obviously permissible within the Sharia. That's his point. Because people could claim all kinds of things with that type of statement. But Imam al-Junayd radiyallahu anhu was somebody who had extraordinary taqwa and wara'. So he's saying that if that's something that is bringing yourself nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's a good thing for you. If it's not, then it's not. وقد ذكر السهروردي في كتابه آداب المريدين رخص المذهب وذكر منها هذا ولا رخصة لمن لا يأخذ بالعزيمة. So these are all about dispensations, and he says that Imam Suhrawardi in his book Adab al-Muridin, The Courtesies of the Seekers, he said the dispensations of this school, and then he mentioned some of them like this, but then he said, and yet there is no dispensation for the one who does not take his actions with resolution. In other words, the dispensation is an exception. That your normal situation should be resolution in what you do. The dispensation, the ease, the facilitation should be when you need it with a good reason. It shouldn't be what you're always looking for. In fact, it should be quite the opposite. So then he says, إِذْ تَتَبُعَ الرُّخَصِ مَذْمُومٌ إِجْمَاعًا, because to seek out dispensations, meaning easier ways, is madhmoom. It's a blameworthy trait by consensus. Now there's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يحب أن يؤخذ برخصه كما يحب أن يؤخذ بعزائمه. Allah loves that a slave takes dispensations just as He loves that he takes azima. If the dispensation is sunnah, then it's actually better that you take it. And there's a khilaf about this, but about certain things. But just speaking from the Maliki madhab, and you'd have to check other madhab. For the traveling prayers, it's a sunnah to shorten the prayers. It's actually sunnah mu'akkada in the Maliki madhab. And there's a qawl bil wujub. Some of the Malikis actually said it was an obligation. For you to pray 4 while you're traveling would actually be mukhillun. That's what he's saying. You're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. You should actually be praying the 2. It's not haram to do that. In other words, if you prayed 4, your prayer is valid, it's not haram. But you've left a sunnah mu'akkada, which is makruh. Now, the only time they differ about that is if you came to a masjid and the imam was a righteous person, then it's mandub to pray behind the imam. So you would give up your sunnah of doing 2 rak'ats and join the jama'ah. But in normal circumstances, even if you have a jama'ah where some are praying full and others are praying traveling, the travelers, according to the Maliki school, are better to pray on their own 2 than to pray with the jama'ah that's praying 4. So there's an example of the rukhsa. You should take the dispensation. You actually shouldn't leave it. Now, on the other hand, in the jama'ah, it is not the sunnah to join the prayers together in your traveling, unless there's a rukhsa. Now, this is not Shafi'i madhab, because they let you join it any time. In the Maliki and the Hanafi madhab, the circumstances have to exist. So in the Maliki madhab, the circumstance for it would be if, for instance, if I came here for 1 day, I'm a traveler, and I'm going to Granada, and it's Dhuhr time, and Asr has not come in yet. But I know that I'm going to arrive at Granada after Asr time, and I'm going to be in Sayr, like moving the whole way. Then I can actually do what's called Jama'. But it's a rukhsa, it's a dispensation. I could also stop on the road along the way. So I have both choices. So there's an example where it's your choice, it's your call to take the rukhsa or the azima. And then he says, فَتَمَسَّكُوا بِأَحْكَامِ التَّقْوَى وَالسَّلَامَةِ. Cling to the rules of taqwa and of safety. Cling to them. وَالسَّلَامَ, in peace. That's the best thing to do. I mean, that's what you have to do. It's not just the best thing, it's the only thing. الطرف الثاني في موقع التقوى من العادات وما يداخلها من قبيح الإرادات وذلك يدور على 3 مواقع. The second aspect here in terms of taqwa concerning normative matters, habits, and those things that impose themselves on it from the unpleasant desires. These revolve around 3. أولها وجه الأخذ والترك ويدخله الحلال والحرام والمنع والجواز. The first is the aspect of either taking or leaving something, doing something or either abstaining from it. And this concerned with what is permissible and what is impermissible, the halal and the haram, what is prohibited and prevented in the sharia, and what is, there's license given for it. فإن أنضاف إليه تغير الحكم كان بدعة وإلا فهو بحسبه. So if the hukum changes, if there's a change in the ruling, then it becomes an innovation. وإلا فهو بحسبه. Otherwise, it's in accordance with it. وأهمه المتشابه. And the most important of all these matters are those things that are gray areas, the doubtful areas. فإن الحلال بين والحرام بين ومن ترك الشبهات استبرأ لدينه وعرضه. And this is in accordance with the hadith, because the halal is absolutely clear and the haram is absolutely clear, and whoever leaves doubtful matters has maintained the purity, the innocence of his deen and of his honor. ولكن الواجب من مجانبة الشبهات مجانبة ما قوي وجوده كاختلاط محظور بمحظور But the obligation in concerning avoiding doubtful matters is the avoidance of what is very clearly exists in that thing. Like the mixture of mahdhur with mahdhur. Like the mixture of something prohibited with something else that's prohibited. وَمَا وَرَى ذَلِكَ وَرَعْ. So if it's the doubtful matters when you have mixtures of things. Some of it's clear, some of it's unclear, some of it's actually clearly haram. There's mixture of things. Those things, whenever that's strong, you actually have to avoid it. When it's not strong, when it's indeed a gray area, what he's saying is, at that point, it becomes a matter of wara'. It's a matter of scrupulousness in the person. The more scrupulous a person is, the more they're going to avoid those gray areas in which it's not clearly haram, where somebody can say that's haram. You can't do that. It's going to be those areas where there's some gray matter there. And then he says, إِلَّا أَن يَكُونَ عَلَى أَصْلٍ. Unless there's some foundation for it. فَشَكٌّ بِلَا عَلَامَ وَوَسْوَسَ. And then, in that case, it's doubt without really clear signs for it and obsessive compulsiveness. So people can become obsessive compulsive about this, and that's when it's not wara'. It's something else. And he's really talking about sicknesses where somebody becomes spiritually neurotic. It's no longer about wara'. It's really a type of neurosis, which is actually quite common with a lot of people. So, in terms of food and things like that, al-halal bayyin wa al-haram bayyin. Haram bayyin is things that ham. That's clearly haram, ham. Now, gelatin, if you see gelatin, that's something that the vast majority of gelatin in the West is made from pig. And so, it really becomes the type where it's ikhtilat. Obviously, most of the food is halal, but there's something there that's haram. At this point, you should leave it. On the other hand, there are things like rennet in cheese. There's proofs that say that the cheese of the Europeans is permissible, and then there's other people like Imam al-Tartushi, who wrote an entire book on the prohibition of the cheese of the Romans, or the Europeans, which includes the Western people. And Sidi Ahmed Zarruq says, he mentioned the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawan in his commentary. He said, whoever swears that he will never eat the cheese of the Europeans at the grave of Imam al-Tartushi, then he'll have his dua answered. If he makes a nadar. Because that was the Imam's opinion. He was a great Imam. He was a great Maliki Imam. He's one of the teachers of Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi. But the point is, for the cheese of Rome, the European cheese, like in this country, it's considered alright to eat the cheese. But if you left it tawarru'an, in other words, you don't have to, but if you did, that's not a bad thing. On the other hand, if you don't drink their milk, people become very obsessed. There's a book you can get. It literally has everything. And people become totally obsessed with this. So if there's some like MS5 or something like that, this is what he's talking about, where you go to such an extreme that your life is no longer functioning. You're completely paralyzed. And at that point, there's another impulse going on. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiallahu anhu mentioned in his book on Zuhd, one person came and asked him about the honey of the bees of Rome. Was it halal or not? And he said that it was. But the reason he put it in that book was to show the wara' of the people. But on the other hand, that time, that age that they were living in, you have to take things also within the context of the time. There are many stories, like even of Imam Ahmad radiallahu anhu, of his incredible wara'. If you try to take those early people and apply it in a time like today, when most people aren't doing the major things, and you start becoming obsessed with the little things, there's people that are so obsessed with really minor things, and they have bank accounts, they have mortgages on their houses, their jobs are not sound jobs. You have to prioritize. You have to get things in the right order. And so first, you have to eliminate the haram from your life. And then you work on the makruhat and the mubahat. This should be the focus on those things that actually there's adab or iqab. There are punishments mentioned in relation to those things. We have to eliminate those first. And that should be the focus. Once you eliminate those, you move to the next level and the next level. And he talks about that earlier, about looking at the end without completing the beginning. That's actually a reason for not arriving. وَرُبَّ وَرَعٍ كَانَ إِذَايَ. And maybe types of wara', scrupulousness, are actually harmful. فَتَفَقَّهْ بَعْدَ الْفِقْهِ فِي الْأَحْوَالِ إِنْ أَرَدْتَ السَّلَامَةِ. So learn discernment after fiqh concerning the ahwal, the states, the ahwal of the self. In aradta salama, if you want peace or safety. This man was a serious psychologist, and he knew the nafs. And spiritual nafs also have illnesses. But you see this a lot, even in Western people. A lot of these types of sicknesses that he's describing, you find them in Western people. There are people, for instance, if they shake hands, they have to go wash their hands with somebody. Really. If they drink a glass, they pull out like a handkerchief from their own pocket, and they'll only touch it because they become obsessed with germs and things like that. This is what he's talking about. That type of level in spiritual matters, where it's become actually an idaya. It's harmful, it's not beneficial. الثاني وجه التناول وفيه تحريم كالحرير ونحوه وإباحة وندب تغيير الحكم الابتداع والاقتصار على المندوب استقامة والأخذ بالمباح تقوى وما وراء ذلك محرم ومكروه والله أعلم. The second one is the aspect of how one is taking these things, and in it there are things that are prohibited like harir, silk, and those type of things, gold rings. And then there are things that are mubah, that are permissible, and then there's things that are recommended. So changing these type of rulings is innovation. And only limiting yourself to what's recommended is istiqamah. This is uprightness. This is like a salih. And taking what's permitted is taqwa. That's what's expected from all of us. Because at the first level of taqwa, well, it's actually the second level. The first level is taqwa al-kufr. The second level is taqwa al-kaba'ir. Every Muslim should be avoiding major wrongs. The third level is taqwa al-sagha'ir. So that's taqwa. Istiqamah comes when you're actually now seeking out recommended things. وَمَا وَرَى ذَلِكَ مُحَرَّمٌ أَوْ مَكْرُوهٌ. Anything beyond that is either prohibited or makruh. الثالث مواقع التقلب وهي بساط الآداب. The third is the places of the vicissitudes of life, and that is the ground of courtesy. So spiritual courtesies, these are the places where they manifest. كَبِرَّ الْوَالِدَيْنِ, like filial piety towards your parents, wujuban, as an obligation. وَالْمُعَلِّمْ بِرًّا وَأَدَبًا, out of birr and also out of courtesy. وَطَاعَةَ الْأُمَرَاءِ فِيمَا لَمْ يُخَالِفِ الشَّرْعِ, and also obedience to our rulers in anything that does not go in contradistinction to the sacred law. وَهُوَ السَّمْعُ وَطَاعَةُ وَإِنْ كَانَ عَبْدًا حَبَشِيًا مُجَدَّعًا. And this is hearing and obeying, even if it was an Ethiopian slave with a mutilated face. قال عمر رضي الله عنه إن شتمك فاصبر وإن ضربك فاصبر وإن أخذ مالك فاصبر وإن راودك على دينك فقل طاعتي في دمي دون ديني. Umar رضي الله عنه said, if he curses you, be patient. If he harms you physically, be patient. If he takes your property, be patient. But if he attempts to seduce you from your religion, say, at this point my obedience is in my blood, not in my deen. In other words, you have to take my blood before I'm going to disobey Allah. You can take my body, you can't take my deen. وَلَا تُخْرِجْ يَدًا مِنْ طَاعَتِهِ. Don't remove one hand from his obedience. وَقَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم اسمع وأطيع وإن ضرب الظهر وأخذ المال. hear and obey, even should he strike your back and take your property. وقال صلوات الله والسلام عليه فأعطوهم ما سألوا وحسابهم على الله. Give them what they ask, and their reckoning is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وقال صلوات الله وسلامه عليه ما مشى قوم إلى سلطان شبرا ليذلوه إلا أذلهم الله. No people march against a ruler, even a handspan, in order to humiliate him or degrade him, except that Allah will humiliate them. وقال عليه السلام ما سب قوم أميرهم ولا إلا حرموا خيره. No people ever curse their ruler except they are prevented from his good. They are prohibited gaining any good from him. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام المؤمن لا يذل نفسه. The Prophet ﷺ said the believer will not humiliate his own soul. وقيل وكيف ذلك يا رسول الله قال يتعرض للسلطان وليس له من النصف. He said that he would expose himself to authority, in other words, opposing the authority. There's no expectation of any justice being shown from the ruler, or he himself really doesn't have a just reason for doing that. The ruler ends up humiliating. So he's humiliated himself by going up against authority. Now, just to stop here for a second, there's a lot of people, and particularly in the Rafida tradition, that accuse the Sunni people of that they incline towards the rulers, that they didn't condemn the rulers. That's not true. It's a slander against the scholars. And some of them actually will claim that a lot of these hadiths were fabricated during the early period by rulers and these things. Again, that is a complete lie also. There are a number of reasons. One, anybody who studied the science of hadith knows that it was almost impossible to get a hadith in and slip it past the scholars of hadith. It does occur, but it's very, very rare. It's very rare. And just to give you a good example, the Mu'tazilite for 100 years were in power. 100 years. And yet you will find no hadith that substantiate their most important claim, that the Quran was created. If the rulers could just invent hadith like that, then you would have had a hadith that said the Quran is created. But there's no hadith that says that. They couldn't substantiate it. And many, many other examples. There are many things that the rulers would have loved to have hadith to substantiate, and they didn't. So that claim is a false claim. But he goes on to say other things. But one of the things Imam Malik radiallahu anhu said is that one moment of anarchy is worse than 60 years under tyranny. Imam Malik said, a short period of time under anarchy, sa'atun min fawda. He said, 60 sana fi dhulm khayrun min sa'atin fi fawda. 60 years in oppression is better than a very short period of time of anarchy, where Muslims are killing each other, things like that. Now, this is an athar, but it's very powerful and people should listen, because it's true. By aqidah, it's absolutely true. وفي بعض الكتب يقول الله تعالى أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا ملك الملوك قلوب الملوك بيدي فمن أطاعني جعلتهم عليه رحمة ومن عصاني جعلتهم عليه نقمة فلا تشغلوا أنفسكم بسبهم وادعوني أعطفهم عليكم الحديث. He mentions this, that it's a hadith, Allahu A'lam. There's not a takhrij of this, but the meaning is true. The meaning is absolutely true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so it's like a Qudsi, I am Allah, there's no God but me. I am the King of Kings. The hearts of kings are in my hand. Whoever obeys me, I will make those hearts a mercy to them. I will make those kings a mercy to them. And whoever disobeys me, I will make those kings a tribulation for them. So don't preoccupy yourselves with cursing them. Call on me, and I will make them compassionate towards you. I mean, that is the essence of the Sunni position. Is that the hukam, a'malukum, ummalukum, a'malukum. Your rulers are a reflection of your own actions. كَيْفَمَا تَكُونُوا يُوَلَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. However you are, those are the people put over you. وَالْحَقُّ أَنَّ الْمُلُوكَ رَحْمَةٌ مِنْ جَانِبٍ نِقْمَةٌ مِنْ آخَرٍ. And in reality, this is Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, kings are a mercy in any case. Even if they're a tyrant, they're a mercy from one aspect and they're a tribulation from another. فَمَنْ أَهْمَلَ حُقُوقُهُمْ هَلَكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَمَنْ تَعَرَّضَ لَهُمْ خَسِرَ في الدنيا والآخرة ومن اعتمدهم فاتته الدنيا والآخرة والسلام. So whoever neglects their rights is destroyed in this world and the next. And whoever exposes himself to them loses in this world and the next. And whoever depends on them, then he will lose this world and the next. Wassalam. So rulers, even if they're tyrants, if there's some order that they're maintaining, because even under tyrannies there's order. That itself is a blessing from Allah. Because human beings in a state of anarchy, it's a disaster. This is what happens when anarchy occurs. You can't go out and buy things at a store. There's rioting in the streets. There's plundering and pillaging. Women are raped. Children are killed. Who would want that type of situation? Nobody. You would rather be under a tyranny than have that situation. Because in a tyranny, some of your freedoms are limited. For some people, all of them. Because tyrants will often take intellectuals, take people that threaten them and put them in jail. But even under a tyranny, there are benefits for the people. This is what he's pointing out. And so, none of these imams either were close to the rulers. Imam Malik radiallahu anhu was tortured by the people of his time. And yet, despite that fact, look through all of his writings, all of his works, you'll never see him curse the rulers. You'll never see him say anything bad about them. You can go through the whole Mudawwana. He'll never even mention them. He doesn't mention any of them by name, ever. He only talks about the Sharia aspects, because those are the important things. And people have to know what you want to go on. Once you recognize that your life is very short, you're given a very short time on earth, and there are certain things to do. One of the most important things is ensuring the transmission of Islam to the next generation. So if that's not happening, if people aren't carrying on these sciences, which is what's happening now, because a lot of the people that are very devout Muslims have abandoned studying. They're involved in a lot of other things. So you're losing all the sciences of Islam. So say there is some Islamic state that comes about. Say it does actually come about. Who's going to be there to tell them how to actually implement Islam? Who's going to be there to tell them what the Sharia says about this or that? Because you can't work it out. You have to have people who have been trained to do those things. And this is one of the real losses of this century, is that the institutions were shut down and the teachers died off, and there's very few left. And really it's incumbent upon a certain amount of people to do that, to take those knowledges from those people. الطرف الثالث, the third aspect, في الأخلاق الذميمة وما يعرض للأخلاق المستقيمة والناس في ذلك الثلاثة. This relates to bad characters. What happens to somebody concerning good character? And people are three concerning these things. So in bad character, and also what happens when somebody's attempting to maintain good character, people are three types. رَجُلٌ عَلَتْ هِمَّتُهُ, a man whose himma, his spiritual aspiration is very high. وَارْتَفَعَتْ عَزِيمَتُهُ, and his resolution has risen to a very high level. فَعَظَمَتْ رُتْبَتُهُ, this is somebody whose rank is very high. وَغَلَتْ قِيمَتُهُ, and his value, his worth is great. فَعَرَضَ لَهُ فِي ذَلِكَ ثَلَاثَةٌ مِنْ أُمَّهَاتِ الْمَهَالِكِ. Three things will happen to him that are from the matrices of those destructive matters on this path. They're at the foundation of the destructive matters of this path. So when you have a lot of resolution on this path, when you have a lot of determination, your rank is high, you're moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, three things will occur. And these will literally destroy a person's spiritual movement. The first, الطمع, the first is covetousness, desire, desiring what other people have. And some of the people of Tasawwuf said that this is the foundational illness, at-tama'. Some said it was kibr, some said it was hubb al-riyasa, love of leadership, some said it was hasad, some said it was riya. They're all related. But tama' is desire. It's desiring what somebody else has. It's the first noble truth in the Eastern tradition. وَبِسَاطُهُ ضُعْفُ الْإِيمَانِ. Its ground upon which it emerges is the weakness of faith. Your faith is weak. When you desire what Allah has given to others, your faith is weak. وَمَدَّتُهُ الْوَهْمُ. And it's the stuff that it's made of is illusion. وَغَايَتُهُ الْحِرْمَانُ. And its end result is that you are deprived of that thing you are attempting to achieve. وَبَاعِثُهُ الْغَفْلَةِ. Its incentive is heedlessness. وَالْأُلْفُ لِلْأَسْبَابِ. And also being comfortable with material means. فَقَدْ قِيلَ لَوْ قِيلَ لِلطَّمَعِ مَنْ أَبُوكَ. And it's been said that if you said to this desire, this covetousness, who is your father? He would have to answer, الشَّكُّ فِي الْمَقْدُورِ. Doubt about the divine decree. وَلَوْ قِيلَ لَهُ مَا حِرْفَتُكَ. And if it was said to him, what is your occupation? لَقَالَ اكْتِسَابَ الذُّلِّ. He would have said, the acquisition of humiliation. And this also comes from a hikmah that Ibn Ata'illah radiallahu anhu said, that the high trees of humiliation only grow in the grounds of desire. So somebody's humiliation comes from tama', this desire. This is what will destroy people. وَلَوْ قِيلَ لَهُ مَا غَايَتُكَ لَقَالَ الْحِرْمَانِ. And if it was said, what is your end? What's your aim? He would have said, deprivation. So that's the first one, at-tama'. The Mauritanians, they have a proverb, they say, at-tama'u yadhhab bil-aql. Desire literally will remove the intellect. People can't think anymore. They get so desirous of what somebody else has. They lose their... And they'll go to extreme ends to get something that somebody else has. And that's why really it's, in a sense, a root disease. Desire. It is the root disease in a sense. I mean, no disobedience ever occurred except that desire, tama', was at its root. You wanted something. And the point is, what he's saying is, hirman is the result. Whatever you wanted, if by drinking you wanted to forget your problems, they're just worse when the drink wears off. If material comfort was what you wanted by attempting to acquire all this wealth, you'll never get that material comfort. It won't happen. Because you always want more. إِثْنَانِ لَا يَشْبَعَانِ. Two people will never be satiated. طَالِبُ الدُّنْيَا وَطَالِبُ الْعِلْمِ. A seeker of dunya and the seeker of knowledge. So if you go out seeking the dunya in order to get satiated, you'll never get it. So it's hirman. Tama' is hirman. You're deprived. The second one is ثاني البخل وبساطه خوف الفقر. The second one is miserliness. And its ground is fear of poverty. That's why somebody's bakhil. He's afraid he's going to get poor. And the Prophet ﷺ said, هَلْ هُنَكَ دَاءٌ أَدْوَى مِنَ الْبُخْلِ. Is there a disease more diseased than miserliness? Because the thing about giving out is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases you in your generosity. When you don't give to others, it's fear. وضعف اليقين وغايته الحسد وغرضه التعدي والظلم والإخلال بالحقوق. And then he said, it also comes from weak certainty. Your certainty is diminished. And its end, in reality, is envy. And its goal and purpose, its means is تعدي والظلم, aggression and oppression, والإخلال بالحقوق, and depriving others of their rights. Because a bakhil will end up depriving people of their rights. al-bakhil shar'an, the definition of a bakhil shar'an is somebody that doesn't pay zakat. That's a bakhil shar'an. If you're not giving the haqq of Allah on your wealth, you're bakhil. But there's a bakhil muru'atan, and some would add to that, like Imam Muhammad Mawlud adds to that, not just zakat, but if somebody comes to you in need and you have the ability to help them without harming you, and you don't, then that's also bakhil. But there's also a bakhil in terms of just, even though shar'an it's not bukhl, but the idea of always having other people pay for you. There's people that will never want to pay for something. They'll always wait till somebody else. There's bukhl there. I mean, if he's capable, I mean, he might be poor. He can't do it. That's another thing. But somebody who's capable and yet he'll wait for somebody else to do it. That person, shar'an, is not really a bakhil, but socially, if he's known to do that, he'll get the label of stingy. Right? The Mexicans say coda, like that. It's like he doesn't have a hand to give, he's just got an elbow. And then the third one, الثالث الكبر وبساطه والتعزز ومادته الرضا عن النفس وغايته فقط الإنصاف ودوام الانحراف وعدم التوقف في الحقوق وعدم التوبة في الحقوق. The third one is arrogance. So the first one is tama', desire, covetousness. The second one is bukhl, miserliness. And the third one is arrogance. He's saying that these three, these will destroy people. Even people that have high himma, have azima, resolution, their rank is high, they have high value. These three things will literally stop them on their paths and destroy them. Desire, miserliness, and then kibr. Because often what will happen if somebody does a lot of spiritual work or intellectual work, in many, many ways, they're open to kibr, to becoming arrogant, to thinking they're better than other people because they're doing more than other people, these type things. وَبِسَاطُ وَالتَّعَزُّزُ وَمَدَّتُهُ الرِّضَى. And its ground is in this overweening sense of the self, and the stuff that it's made of is contentment with the soul, with the ego. And the result of it, it's the loss of objectivity towards others, that you begin to be biased in your opinions. And also, its result is that one is constantly deviating and will forget, will lose tawbah in relation to the huquq. Because part of tawbah, we went through radd al-mazalim, is redressing wrongs that were done. If you become arrogant, you won't think you've done any wrong to anybody, even if you've wronged them. Or you won't think you've done something wrong in the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that becomes very dangerous. وَإِنْ كَانَ صَاحِبُهُ فِي غَايَةِ صُوَرَ الضَّعَ فَإِنَّهُ مُتَكَبِّرٌ. And even if the companion of this was in the most extreme state of degradation, he's still arrogant. So in other words, he's saying, you could be somebody in the most extreme state, lowly state, and yet you have these affections. In that case, فَإِنَّهُ مُتَكَبِّرٌ فَعْرَفْ ذَلِكَ. So know that. Because generally kibr comes from money, from lineage, from beauty. It comes from material things. But he's talking about spiritual pride. Like the muezzin said to the imam, look who thinks he's nothing. That's spiritual pride. And the thing about spiritual pride is it can actually be in somebody who in societal matters is still very low. In terms of class, consciousness, things like that. It could be somebody who's very low. But he has this spiritual pride. He might not have any wealth. He might be a faqir. He might be damim al-wajh. Somebody who's damim, he's ugly or unpleasant. He might be somebody without any really societal status, but he looks down on other people because of his nafs. الثاني رجل, so that's the first type of person. الثاني رجل حصل له شيء من الرفع وأثر من مبادئ ارتفاع القطعة. The second type person is somebody who has achieved some rank, some portion in terms of the foundations of those things that exalt a person, in terms of jah, having a mansib. And the foundation of this is three. أحدها قلة المبالاة في الحال اعتمادا على رتبته. Lack of concern about his state because he's dependent upon his rank. So because he has a rank, he has some rifa', he's been raised up, he's been elevated by his state, he begins to not really be concerned anymore because he's achieved a rank. And so he depends on that rank. It's what they call in the West resting on his laurels. Somebody who's resting on his laurels. الثاني الاستظهار بالدعاوى استشعارا لمزيته. The second quality of this person is beginning to make claims because he is aware and senses his distinction from others. So this might be somebody who starts believing that he's a wali of Allah, starts making claims about it. And this is one of the problems on this path. Shaykh Ibn al-Habib, one of his qasida begins, فَإِنْ شِئْتَ تَطْهِرًا مِنَ الشِّرْكِ وَالدَّعْوَةِ وَتَشْرَبَ مِنْ تَسْنِيمِ الْوَصْلِ حَتَّى التَّرْوَى مِنَ الشِّرْكِ وَالدَّعْوَةِ. He begins the qasida, if you want to free yourself from riya and da'wah. Because on the spiritual path you can get riya. You start wanting to do these things so that other people see you in a certain light. وَالدَّعْوَةِ, and making false claims. And Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu said, Imam Sidi Mayyara mentioned it in his commentary on Ibn Ashur's Bab of Tasawwuf. He said, مِنَ الذُّنُوبِ, there are some wrong actions. لَا تُكَفَّرُوا إِلَّا بِسُوءِ الْخَاتِمَةِ. They're not removed except by a bad seal. And then he said, وَمِنْهَا إِدِّعَى الْوِلَايَةِ, claiming to be a wali of God. And then Sidi Mayyara adds to that, and by Allah, I don't know if this also includes those who claim others to be walis of God. He said, I'm not sure whether this is included in those who claim others to be awliya, mahabbatan fihim, out of their love for them. Now what that means is that is not i'tiqad. People have a belief about people and that's accepted. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, in that famous hadith about tazkiyah, if you say about somebody that you reckon him to be like that. وَلَا أُزَكِّ عَلَى اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And I don't claim anybody as pure before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, Allah knows the real states of people, but you have an i'tiqad, a belief about people, that they're closer to Allah. Now, obviously in the past, there are people that are mujma' ala wilayatihim. The great imams of our ummah, these are awliya of Allah. And we don't have any doubt about that. Imam al-Ghazali, Imam al-Nawawi, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, radiyallahu anhum, Qadi Iyad, all these, Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, these are awliya. We don't have any doubts about that. In terms of people, you have a belief about them. And that's why you ask them for dua, things like that. That's from i'tiqad. So he's saying that da'wah, that this is one of the things, these people will make claims of da'wah. And you'll see this, unfortunately, with people. Or they'll claim it for their shaykh. They'll say their shaykh's the qutab. They'll say their shaykh is the greatest living shaykh. Have they gone all over the world and met every single shaykh? I mean, it's good to have a belief about somebody. It's not a bad thing. But to make jazm, that's the danger. I mean, there's a saying, they say only the wali knows the wali. So in a sense, to make that claim about somebody else is a type of claim also. الثالث الاستصلاح الاصطلاح للمخالفات انتصارا لهواه في حالته. And the third one is that he's at peace with his act of disobedience, as a way of justifying his own affections in the state that he's in. So he's at peace with those things that he's doing that are against the path, against the Sharia. as a way of justifying his own passion. الثالث, the third type of person, رجل تهور مع المتهورين وتجبر مع المتجبرين وقواعد آفاته ثلاثة جامعة وهي التي بها النفوس والعة. So he says the third one is somebody who rushes headlong into danger with those who do so, and has become arrogant, tyrannical with those who do so. And the foundation of his pitfalls is three: comprehensive, and these are also things that the nafs by their nature are inclined to and have strong desire for. الأولى التجسس ومنه ينبعث كل فعل خسيس. The first is spying or seeking out information about others, and from this manifests every lowly action. كالغيبة والنميمة. So somebody is concerned about other people. They become obsessively concerned about other people, and from this results things like backbiting, dissembling, وكل إذاية وذميمة, and every harm that occurs to people, and every foul and ugly deed. لأن من تطلع للأخبار لم يعدم الشرور في الإخبار. And the reason for this is because the one who is constantly seeking out news about others will not be safe from the evil of what he finds out. So if you're always looking to find out bad things about people, you're going to find them out. And that in itself is dangerous. Because whereas before, that person was veiled, and then you begin to have bad opinions about those people, there's all these things that come from it. You start thinking that you're better than those people. There are a lot of real problems with that. And for that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا تجسسوا. Don't spy on other people. Don't seek out their faults. I mean, Allah said, إِنَّ بَعْضَ الظَّنِّ إِثْمٌ. Some suspicion is wrong. So if you suspect, لا تجسسوا. Don't go and find out, because you might find out. And then if you find out, لا يغتب بعضكم بعضا. Don't go tell other people what you found out, unless there's a hukm shar'i. And then الثانية, the second one, is الاسترسال مع الطبيعة فيما يأتي به من شنيعة من غير تفصيل في الأحوال ولا التفات للنقص والكمال، وهذه من حمق غالب أو هوى طالب أو قلب على الحقيقة غائب. فإن أفعال العقلاء مربوطة بالمقاصد متوقفة على المراصد، ومن أرسل نفسه وقع في أودية الهلاك كما ورد في كل واد من قلب ابن آدم شعبة، فمن تتبع قلبه تلك الشعب لم يبالي الله في أي واد أهلكه. Hadith. So the second is allowing the self to freely roam in the pastures of its nature concerning those things that result in ugly things, without really going into details about the states of the soul, nor being concerned about the deficient things of the soul and those things that perfect the soul. And this is from overwhelming stupidity, حمق غالب, أو هوى طالب, or a demanding affection or craving, أو قلب عن الحقيقة غائب, or a heart that is completely absent from reality. Because the actions of those people who are intelligent, who have aql, is always connected to the aims and purposes. And it's always rooted in looking for those things that are going to harm it. In other words, there's a type of vigilance in the actions of people with intellect. There's a type of deliberation that they have that prevents them from going into things that will harm them. وَمَنْ أَرْسَلَ نَفْسُهُ وَقْعَ فِي أَوْدِيَةِ الْهَلَاكِ. And those people who unleash their souls will always fall into the valleys of destruction. Just as it's come in the hadith, in every valley, في كل واد من قلب ابن آدم شعبة. In every valley of the heart of the son of Adam, there is an inlet, there's a branch, there's a road going off. So whoever seeks out and allows its heart to follow those byways Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no concern about which valley He destroys him in. So if you're always letting your heart roam and wander without being vigilant about it, holding it back to those things that are harmful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not concerned. If you're not concerned in the destruction of your heart, then what He's saying is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not concerned either. نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَهُمْ أَنفُسُهُم. They forgot Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah caused them to forget their own souls. التعزز والاستبداد بالرأي. This is the third, الثالثة. This is of this type of person. This is the impetuous and arrogant person. التعزز والاستبداد بالرأي ومنه يتولد حب المدح وتوقف في مواطن الذبح. This is somebody who is extremely proud and also completely opinionated. Believes that his opinion is the only valid opinion. And the result of this are love of praise and also exposing oneself to the places of dhibh. Because the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith called the people who praised people that it's as if they slaughtered their brother. Dhibh. So if you're always seeking out praise, it's like you're seeking to get your throat slit. It's going out looking to be slaughtered. So his warning here is that this type person, this opinionated person, filled with himself, thinks that nobody else has a valid point of view. This type of position results in loving to be praised. Excellent. What a great opinion you presented. And then that leads to kibr, intifakh. They get bigger and bigger. And so they kill themselves. Because with just a mustard seed of pride, somebody's prevented from entering paradise. تنبه أيها الأخ. So wake up, oh my brother. Pay attention to this. بهذه الأصول التي رسمت لك تجد جميع المعاصي دائرة عليها. So wake up to these, oh my brother, and you will find in these principles that I have just described to you all the roots of all wrong actions. So he's saying that what he's just given you, all of this material up till now, this is the root of all wrong actions, is in one of these principles that he's laid down. And part of being cured from the disease is knowing its etiology. By knowing what causes a disease, you can remove the disease. So that's why what he's done is he's given us all of the causes of wrong actions. So this facilitates the ability of treating the soul with the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, coupled with the mujahada of the individual. And then he said, وَخَارِجَةً مِنْهَا وَعَيْدَةً إِلَيْهَا. It emerges from them and it returns to them. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهَا تَحْدُثُ مِنْ أُمُورٍ ثَلَاثَةٍ. And all of them occur from three things. أولها الاقتداء بالناس المعتقدين الذين يظهر منهم ذلك. The first is imitating people who one has some type of belief in them, and those wrong actions manifest from them. And this is the foundation of Western now, ads and all these people that people are imitating. The reason you see all these young girls wearing shirts where their belly buttons are exposed is because they see this singer Britney Spears who wears this type of thing. I mean, this is what, they had an article in Newsweek that said when this woman was, she's 18 years old or something, when she was plastered all over America, suddenly all these girls started wearing these shirts. They weren't wearing them before, but when they put this person up there, everybody starts imitating. He's giving you the three reasons why people do these things. One of them is because they're following people who do those things, and they have some belief about them. So they think he's great or she's great. The origin and their origins in one's actions, because of the lack of taking the soul to account, because there's no soul reckoning. So one doesn't reflect on what one's been doing. One doesn't see where one's states are emerging from and the actions that result from those states. الثالث حسن الظن بالنفس والاسترسال معها. The third is having a good opinion of the self and giving the self free rein. فاحذر نفسك. So beware of yourself. أولا واحذر الناس ثانيا, and beware of other people secondly, من غير أن تسيء الظن بهم, without having a bad opinion of it. Just beware of people. One of them said, حسن الظن في الزمان منقصة فظن شرا ثم كن منه على وجري. Like in these days, it's dangerous to have a good opinion of people. Think the worst and then just watch out. Don't have a good opinion, don't have a bad opinion. Just beware of people. In the old days, when you have a lot of good people, الناس محمول على العافية. It's a principle in usul. الناس محمول على العافية. You should think first that people are okay before you think something's wrong with them. When they say, when the time is corrupt, people are bad, generally, you have to be really wary. You have to watch out. Because you'll just get burnt again and again. بل كما قال مالك رحمه الله تمسك بالذي لا تشك فيه ودع الناس ولعلهم في ساعة. Cling to what you know to be true and have no doubt about. And leave people, and perhaps they have some valid position. In other words, follow what you know to be true. Like the Shaykh, the Moroccan Shaykh, who somebody asked him what was the hukm of men wearing gold. And he says haram. And then the man asking him said, well, why does the king have a gold bracelet we always see in the pictures and things? And the Shaykh said, Sayyidina Faqih, the king's, he's a Faqih. He knows what he's doing. As far as I know, it's haram. Maybe he knows something I don't know. Just leave people. People have sa'a with their Lord. You don't know. That's why Imam al-Ma'ziri, they said, من اتساع علمه قلما أنكر على أحد. From the vastness of his knowledge, he rarely condemned anybody of anything. I mean, he had so much knowledge. He would always say, oh, that's an opinion of so-and-so. There's a madhab that says such and such. So-and-so said that that was permissible. That's what he's saying. Cling to what you know to be true. And then consider maybe he has some other fatwa or something like that. Obviously this is not about haram, something clearly haram, something like that. And then he said, وَلَا تُقَلِّدْ دِينَكَ الرِّجَالِ بَلْ قَلِّدْهُ الْعِلْمَ الَّذِي لَا يُمْكِنُ الْغَلَطُ فِيهِ وبرهانه في نفسه وهو ما جاء عن الله ورسوله حسب ما فهمه أولي العلم والحكمة وحاسب نفسك فيما دق وجل واجعل ذلك آخر كل يوم لتعرف ما فيه ولا تعتمد بالأمور العامة. So he said, with your deen do not imitate men, but rather imitate true knowledge which does not have the possibility of a mistake, and you have a proof with it in yourself. And that is what Allah and His Messenger ﷺ have brought. So what he's saying is, don't imitate people because they can make mistakes, they can be right. Follow Allah and His Messenger. But then he qualifies it by saying, حَسْبَ مَا فَهِمَهُ أُولِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, in accordance with what the people of wisdom and knowledge have understood. Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, and Imam Ahmad, like that. So he's not saying don't say like some modern people say, لَا تُقَلِّدَ الْمَذَاهِبِ. No. He's saying follow the Kitab and the Sunnah if you're not a mujtahid, in accordance with what the mujtahidun, mujma' alayhim, that are agreed upon, have understood. And then take your soul to account in every little thing and major thing, and make that practice at the end of your day, in order that you can know what occurred in your day. And then don't depend on general matters. ما لم تحقق أصولها وتعرف طائرها ومحصولها بوجه صحيح. As long as you have not clearly determined what its principles are, and you don't know what its benefit is, and what its result is from a sound point of view. فإن الهوى في هذه الأزمنة قد غلب. Because people's affections, caprices, and desires in these days have overwhelmed them. والحق قد عفت آثاره وذهب. And truth, in reality, its traces have disappeared and gone. إلا عند أهل العصمة والعناية, except in the people who have been protected from Allah and have divine providence with them. وذوي الكرامة والولاية, meaning the prophets, the people of Isma and Inayah. وذوي الكرامة والولاية, and those people who have this karama with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the wilaya, the divine protection. الَّذِينَ رَبَطُوا ظَوَاهِرَهُم بِاتِّبَاعِ السُنَّةِ, those who have tied their outward forms with absolute adherence to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. وَحَقَّقُوا بَوَاطِنَهُم بِشُهُودِ الْمِنَّةِ, and have caused their internal states to realize the station of witnessing the gifts and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَالْتَزِمُوا خَاصَّةَ نُفُوسِهِمْ, and so they, مِنْ غَيْرِ زَائِدٍ, they were able to maintain this special distinction in their souls without any excess. وَأَخَذُوا بِالْأَحْوَطِ فِي الْعِبَادَاتِ وَالْعَوَائِدِ, and they took the most cautious positions in devotional practices and in their normative patterns or their habitual practices. عملا بقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا رأيت شحا مطاعا وهوى متبعا وإعجاب كل ذي رأي برأيه فعليك بخويصة نفسك or خاصة نفسك. If you see greed being obeyed and caprice being followed and every opinionated person amazed at his own opinion, then take care of your own special concerns, the concerns of your own soul. فَلَا يَضُرُّهُمْ مَنْ خَالَفَهُمْ وَلَا يُضِيرُهُمْ مَنْ خَذَلَهُمْ كَمَا وَقَعَ فِي الْحَدِيثِ جَعَلَنَا اللَّهُ مِنْهُمْ بِمَنِّهِ وَكَرَمِهِ. And you will not be harmed by those who go against you. They are not harmed by those who disagree with them, nor will they cause any evil to occur to them, those who betray them and abandon them. And it is just as it has occurred in the hadith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from them by His bounty and His generosity. Alhamdulillah, jazallahu anna Sayyidina Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ma huwa ahluhu. Jazallahu anna Sayyidina Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ma huwa ahluhu. Jazallahu anna Sayyidina Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ma huwa ahluhu. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.